So good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by Audra Mariel, and she has a solo project, or like what you say, a project named Martin Hoff, and we're here to talk about the new album that's coming out Friday, April 19th. So Audra, how are you today?
I'm well, Hector. How are you?
I'm doing good. So yes, I listened to the music, and yeah, it's something very different. The album's called Distant Dissonance, and so for people that don't know the music that you make, tell us a little bit about Martin Hoff and what you're all about.
Cool. Yeah, of course. So Martin Howth is the name that I use to loop. Um, it's a pseudonym that I came up with. I was going to call the project Heart in Mouth, like to have one's heart in one's mouth is to be like nervous about something, which when I first started this project, I was. But then I just switched the first the letters of each word and came up with Martin Howth as like a name of a person. I'm person, and so that was like how the name came about. I had been singing jazz standards for about 10 years at the time, and so I didn't want to use my name for this project, so I came up with an alias, because the music is also so different, and so it's really just my voice. I loop and layer everything live. I don't use any pre-recorded tracks at all. And I don't really use any of the digital effects I use a Boss RC505 that has a lot of effects built in, and you could also add different pedals to that and plug things into it, but I use no digital effects except the looping effect. And I really took on the project to kind of explore the voice as an instrument, to use different parts of my voice, to allow my voice to resonate in different parts of my body, and to see how that alters the sound. The most that I do to manipulate the sound is I sing into a mug. Kind of like this one.
Like a coffee mug?
Yeah, this was my original mug, and it broke.
Okay.
But I had a matching set, so I have the second one, but I still keep it on a shelf. This was the original. So it makes like a... Okay. You can manipulate the sound a little bit that way. And that's the most that I do, like outside of anything with my own body, to change the sound, to alter the sound of my voice. So, yeah.
So it's very interesting because it's all a cappella, it's all you, and there's even a song where you're like almost like reading a story.
Yeah, it's a poem. So that's the only track on the whole album that actually does utilize pre-recorded tracks, and the reason for that is the first loop track that comes up on that song or poem is one that my cat recorded of himself. He walked across my loop station one day when I was practicing and was talking, meowing, and recorded himself. So there's a track where he started recording himself, and then you hear me go, oh, and then I stopped it, but then that started looping. And of course, you know, when anything loops, it creates its own rhythm. And so I was so excited. In the moment, I had improvised a bunch of layers around the track my cat recorded. And so I saved that on the loop station. It's the only instance where I've ever used pre-recorded anything. And then I decided for the album, because it was something that was recorded in my house by my cat, where we collaborated, that I would read the poem Magic House, which is about where I live.
Okay, well, is the cat getting some royalties?
He does get credit. Actually, two cats get credit because I'm pointing because he's sleeping right to my left. He recorded the vocals. And then when I recorded the poem, the track that I used actually for the poem recording was a rehearsal recording that I put right on my phone, where a second cat of mine was laying like belly up on my bed, and I was just reading it to him and petting him and kissing his belly, and he's purring. And I had this track of the poem And really all I did was plug them in and live mix everything, the tracks on the loop station over the poem. And I almost re-recorded it, but I just liked that it was authentic and it was recorded in the house. And so that's the
and
only
it's your poem.
It's my poem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought it was interesting, but I'm like, oh, there's a poem being read.
Yeah.
Or like a short story. But
Yeah.
you do have a video, you have a single that is the song Dear Doreen, which is the second track on the album. So what's Dear Doreen all about?
Dear Doreen, I started writing that. I'd gone to a flea market and picked up an autograph book that belonged to a little girl who lived in a very small town that I did a little research on called Pillow, Pennsylvania. She was probably in like middle school or elementary school between the years 1940 and 1945. And so it was her autograph book from all of her friends and her teachers. And it was mostly like bits of advice and rhyming couplets and things, but I had opened it to a page as soon as I picked it up that just said, paddle your own canoe, was what was written on the page. And I loved it so much, or it spoke to me in the moment, that I bought the autograph book for like, I don't know, $2 or something, and read through it and started to kind of try to flesh out her story. And I sat down to write her a letter, and it really turned out to be more of a letter to a younger version of myself.
Yeah, that's what we read on the
yeah.
So what were you trying to convey to your younger self?
My younger self? Well, I noticed for Doreen, that the other children were writing things to her about, you know, her boyfriend, and always remember your boyfriend, and things about getting married, and things about having babies, and you know, they were cute little rhymes or whatever. But she had, I think the one phrase was, when you get married and you have twins, don't come to me for safety pins. It was stuff like that was written. And she had gone back. The page was written in pencil, and she, presumably somebody, went back and underlined the phrase, when you get married, in pen. And I thought, oh my gosh, this, you know, of course I'm just trying to flesh out her story. And I'm like, this little girl who's in like middle school or elementary school is thinking about getting married. And it was something for me, you know, just growing up, there's a lot of pressure on folks to tick boxes. You know, you get married, you have babies, you buy a house, you do, I don't know in what order you do any of that anymore, but and I hadn't done all of those things, or had tried and failed.
I did it and I got divorced.
See, but that happened, you know, but we have this idea or this ideal that we're kind of spoon-fed from when we're kids. So I sat down to kind of comfort her, or write to her and be like, I know this seems, or like they're talking about her boyfriend, and there was drama about the boyfriend, where everybody's talking about this kid Teddy on all these different pages. And then sometimes they'll sign the pages, yours till you tear out this page. And that was a common signature. And then they would sign it. I'm gesturing and I spilled my water.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. And then they would sign it. But I noticed, as often as everybody was talking about this boy Teddy, there were no pages from Teddy in her book. But there was a page that was very deliberately torn out, and that had a little bit of writing left. So I told myself this story. I'm like, well, something went south with Teddy, like something didn't go well, and she tore out his page. And I kept thinking to myself, between like this idea of marriage and the pressure to be married and babies and boyfriends, and I was like, this poor child shouldn't really be thinking about this. And then here I am, you know,
you're so young.
Yeah, you're so young. But we all kind of like, we all do it. I think a lot of us do that, and then continue to do it as adults. And you put all this pressure on yourself to be something or do something that like maybe isn't meant for you, or isn't meant for you in that moment. So what I sat down to write to her was like, it's okay. You know, this is all going to seem so important right now, but in the grand scheme, it's not. You know, but and that idea of paddle your own canoe, like do what you feel compelled to do, and that's how you find happiness and fulfillment, you know. That was sort of what the idea was. But I saw a lot of myself in this story that I fabricated. I mean, but based on what I was reading in her autograph book, I tried to fill in the blanks and I related to it. And ultimately, you know, it was a letter to me, but also to Lori. Yeah.
You knew when you wrote that song that that would be like the single?
I don't think so. I think it was hard for me to choose singles, because when I think of what a single should be, I'm like, well, it's got to be like something sort of, I guess, catchy, or like catchy and like very accessible. I don't know what I think a single should be. And then when I was talking to Greg from Nefarious, he was kind of like, just choose things that you like just choose the ones you really like and that you want to share. And so ultimately, I mean, but that was a song that I had an idea for a video. And so it was almost like, and we shot the video, with friends, Alex Jackson shot it, my friend Damon helped direct it, because I kind of directed it because it was all of my shot list, but it's hard to direct yourself. So he kind of assistant directed, and we cast this little girl, and we had this beautiful space, the Strauss Mansion Museum, to shoot the video, which was also where half the album was recorded. And it was just that I had the story in mind. We had it all plotted out. I edited it together, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to release a single, I should release it with this video. Like, I have the visuals to support. So that was sort of how that came up, how that single got released, was really just that it felt complete, because now these visuals that I had in my head had come to fruition. I could pair the song with the video and put it out in the world, you know?
Okay, yeah, no, makes sense. And so tell me a little bit about, you know, the video. So the video's cool, but the album opens with, and the album is named Distant Dissonance. Like, what does that title mean to you?
So what I tried to achieve with the title, with the song, is this idea that there could be things that feel or sound dissonant, but when taken, like if you isolate them maybe, but when taken as part of a whole, that it kind of somehow works. And I tried to play with that idea with sound. Like, there were vocal lines that kind of don't quite feel, there's something about it that feels dissonant. But once I add these other layers in, it all kind of works together in harmony. And I think of life being that way, and the way we perceive our lives to be. There are things that feel uncomfortable, but that ultimately are a part of a bigger whole that brings about growth or understanding or learning and things like that, like this. And so I felt like the song Distant Dissonance and the song Golden Mean, the first and the last songs on the album, are actually bookends. They're like these little sister songs. And thematically, they're talking about life and death and what that could all be. And it's kind of like holding sometimes, I don't know if I'm saying this right, if it's like ideas that sometimes seem that they don't work, ideas that are contradictory or dissonant, that you can hold those things together at the same time. The idea that like everything can have meaning, and sometimes things feel meaningless simultaneously. Like when you experience loss, let's say when we're talking about death, that sometimes things can feel so senseless and meaningless, but then eventually when you take a step back and look at it as a part of the whole, it all works in harmony and everything is as it should be, you know?
No, yeah,
does that?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I want to show the artwork of the record.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second while I get it. Okay, here we have the artwork. So tell me a little bit about this artwork.
So this is a beautiful collage that was done by my dear friend, Corinne Hen. Corinne uses vintage National Geographic magazines and I know it's exclusively Nat Geo if she uses some other source material, but she collages everything by hand and scans them. So this was a piece that she designed. She also did the artwork on my first EP that I released called the Wayward Warbler. And that was a piece that she did custom. I just told her what the title was and gave her some ideas of thematically what it was. This was a piece of hers that I liked and that I asked her if I could use, and she agreed. And so that's the artist. That's who designed it.
Yeah, it looks cool, and I think it goes with the aesthetics of the record. So you said that you recorded half of the record where you shot the video. Tell me about the recording process for this.
Sure. So half of the record was recorded at the historic Strauss Mansion Museum in Atlantic Highlands with permission from the local historical society. And then the other half was recorded on the Georgian Court University campus in Lakewood, which was the former Gould estate. So whereas the Strauss Mansion Museum is one house with different rooms where I recorded things, Georgian Court was the entire campus. So there were different buildings that we were in. We were in the swimming pool. And in fact, we were the last people to be in that pool before they drained it. I don't know if they're renovating the building or demolishing the building. I don't know if they're demolishing it.
Recording the swimming pool?
Yes. Well, we recorded, I think I sat on the diving board or like the diving
okay.
platform. That's where I recorded. I recorded the interlude in there, that interlude that's on the album. And there were other folks in the room, in the water, in the space, making kind of just contributing to the ambient noise. Then we also shot some video using the pool that will be in the next music video that'll be released soon for the song Axolotl. So we were in the swimming pool space. There was a song recorded there, and we did utilize the pool for other visuals as well. So that was the swimming pool. There's a ballroom where the song Axolotl was recorded. There's a bowling alley where the song The Winning was recorded. There's a tennis court where the song Viva Moon Vegas was recorded. There's a chapel that used to be a greenhouse. That was where Golden Mean was recorded. And so that was that half of the album. And the other half was at the Strauss Mansion Museum. And I really was just recording in different parts of the house. Dear Doreen was recorded in the stairwell where a lot of the video was shot. Cicatrice was recorded like kind of in a hallway at the base of a second stairwell. Manteater was in the foyer area, and Distant Dissonance was in like the living room, drawing room.
Okay. When you were doing these songs, did you know that you wanted to do, like, did you like first look at the spaces and then decide I'm going to do this one on this area for, I don't know, any particular reasons?
Yeah, there were some that like just felt like I liked the idea of doing Dear Doreen on the stairs because between the testing the sounds of the spaces, I was walking through these spaces singing and hearing what my voice sounded like in the space. But part of it also for me is the energy of the space. So the idea of writing a letter to a little girl, I used to sit on the stairs in the house or sit under furniture in the house. I liked feeling safe, closed in. I used to try to find little hiding spots. So the idea of recording a letter to a younger version of myself on the stairwell felt like energetically felt right. And the sound of that area it complemented the song well enough that I was like, yes, this is where that's going to be recorded. There was another one. Oh, we were up in the tower. There was a tower at the top of that house. Becoming Unbroken was recorded up there. And I think it was just, again, like sort of symbolically, I guess I was like, higher self, like doing things to making promises to oneself, improving oneself, higher self, go to the highest point in the house, you know, and the spaces all sound kind of cool because they're historical. I wish I remember when the year that house was built, but like the surfaces, the reverberant, the surfaces in these spaces, the ceilings are a certain height, et cetera, they all sound different. And like I'm saying, energetically, they all have sort of a different energy, and I kind of like that. So yeah, there were multiple reasons why each space was chosen for each thing. Sometimes it was strictly the sound. The tennis courts at Georgian Court, there's like a 6-second delay, there's 6 seconds of reverb, I think we counted in that room. And for the song Viva Moon Vegas, which is very spacey, dreamy, I wanted there to be that sort of space. So we chose the tennis courts for that specific reason. It was really the sound. And it's so vast, and I felt so small in that space, which felt appropriate, you know?
Okay. So, yeah. So for this album, once you release it, are you gonna, I'm guessing that this would be like intimate shows that you would play this type of music. Like what are the plans?
So we're discussing touring, etc., outside of this area, like the New York, New Jersey area. But the kinds of shows that I have booked at this point are libraries. I just did a release show in a historic library that isn't a functioning library any longer. It's just a historic space and an event space, but it feels appropriate. It's an intimate, so non-traditional venues are typically where I'll end up playing. Libraries, galleries, there's an event in a bookstore coming up, house concerts, things like this, because it's absolutely physically impossible for me to do this in a noisy bar because I'm looping everything live. I've tried, because I'm always so grateful to be invited to be part of a bill, even though it might not be an appropriate space for me to play. And I've had to learn that the hard way by showing up, and if there's so much noise in the room that I'm looping only the noise. I can barely hear what I'm laying down, and it's not, I suffer through it, and I believe the audience does too. It's just not appropriate. So I have to find spaces that are quiet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. This is like the type of music. Yeah. It has to be like a quiet place.
Yeah.
Noisy. So what has the reception been so far for the new music?
So folks who have like pre-ordered the vinyl and had gotten it early, I've been getting such lovely feedback, and I'm really grateful for that. It's very personal music, and I find that as people do, they're listening through it through the lens of their own experience. And the common thing that people are saying is that they've related to it and felt moved by something, some sort of theme or something that they've heard on it. And I guess that's the intention. I mean, I guess it's always the intention that you want people to connect to what you're writing. But the release show was wonderful, and it was really warmly received. And I don't know. I think that what people have said is that they recognize that it's very personal to me, but that they've seen pieces of themselves in it too, which is the intention. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, so I think it's a different album, and it's for it has some different elements for people that can enjoy this different type of music. So what would you say to the fans on what to expect next from Martin Howth once you release this? Do you have ideas for more music at the time, or you're just focusing on this one for now?
I've been sort of quietly working on stuff for an EP that I hope to be putting out, but it's so like it's sort of nebulous. Like I have some of the songs, but not. Although I did record one of them recently, at I have my friend Mike Flannery, who engineered the record, mixed and mastered the record, is a professor at Stevens Institute in Hoboken, and he invited me to record. He's like, "Do you have anything you want to record with my students, my engineering students?" He's like, I really supervise the whole thing, and the students will record." And so I recorded this song that I intended to put out on an EP, but it will first be released as a single. And 100% of the proceeds from the single will go to an organization called 180 Turning Lives Around, which is an organization local to me that provides resources for victims or survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And so that's sort of the song is called "Oh Possum," and that's sort of the theme of the song. And so in perpetuity, my intention is to donate 100% of the proceeds from that song to this organization. And eventually it will come out on this EP with a bunch of other songs. But the first, the first course of action is for that to be released. But I couldn't tell you when.
No, this is breaking. You're breaking it here. On the Still Doing Couch on the channel. So and it's good that it's going to proceed for obviously something that happens in every nation around the world too much, and should be talked about, and should be something that shouldn't happen anymore.
I agree.
Yeah. So Audra, I want to thank you for your time this afternoon, to chat with me about the album Distant Dissonance and everything about it. So I will put the link for people who want to pre-order this. It's coming out this Friday, the 19th of April, on Nefarious Industries. So I'll put the links so people can get more into it. So I want to thank you, Audra, for taking some time to chat with me virtually today on the couch. It's been very interesting. So anything else you'd like to say to the people?
Just thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So people, check out the album out this Friday by Martin Howth. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.